negotiations are
Taking a look at
expected
the
today.
Fine dust level is getting higher. So, this is what we can do to protect ourselves from the growing level of fine dust. First, check out the fine dust level before you go out and make sure to wear a mask when the fine dust level is high. Also, don't forget to wash your hands when you return home. Even if the fine dust is not visible, it doesn't mean your hands are clean enough. Lastly, follow the alternate no driving system to reduce the fine dust from cars. These are very simple yet powerful ways to protect ourselves from the fine dust. Let's all take part in this campaign and stay healthy. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, Busan 영어 방송.
김밥가게 박 사장님도, 문구점 김 사장님도, 우리 부산의 경제를 움직이는 사람들. 우리 동네 작은 가게로 향하는 발걸음이 우리 부산의 경제를 키워가는 한 걸음입니다. 부산 방송광고 발전 협의회.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
It is not unusual for presidential candidates to take different stances on major policies during the election season. One area where the presidential hopefuls definitely don't see eye to eye is the U.S. tariffs. The Democratic Party's I재명의 is pushing for a measured, interest-driven path in its relationship with Washington, stressing strategic patience. While the People Power Party's 김문수의 is supporting a rapid, trust-based summit approach, basically emphasizing the importance of high-level diplomacy. So there are two more debates left until the election, and of course there are other candidates as well. But the question is this: how would the presidential election affect the trade negotiations? Well, let's find out. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Monday, May 19th on BEFM 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you had a good weekend, that you are all rested up, whether you did something really, really fun and exciting or dynamic, or you kind of, lounged around. As for me, I did a bit of lounging around, some light cooking and stuff like that, but I really wanted to get better, recover. Some of you may know I wasn't feeling quite well because of my eye, but better. I'm taking all the meds, so I feel much better today, and I'm so happy to be joining you this Monday morning. So this week is shaping up to be a major week for the country's trade and tariffs. South Korean Trade Minister An Deok-keun will hold a second round of talks with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer in Washington following their first round in Jeju last week. During round one, apparently, Minister An asked the U.S. to exempt South Korea from all tariffs. And to this, Greer responded that he understands that South Korea has consistently raised this issue, but did not make any specific requests or really, didn't really take a firm stance, at least not, during the first round of talks. In the next round, the two sides will cover 6 areas: trade imbalance, non-tariff measures, economic security, country of origin of products, and commercial considerations, according to the trade minister. But it seems that the negotiations, they're going to have to, we're going to have to, I guess, be patient. It's going to take some time, as additional high-level talks are apparently scheduled for mid-June as well. The two countries have previously set a deadline to come up with a package deal on trade and economic issues, and that deadline is July 8th. That is coming up, but that is definitely still after the presidential election here in Korea. And that's why the timeline is so interesting, right? Because we're, in the middle of this presidential, snap election, change of government in the middle of this whole period of negotiations. So the South Korean government, has been in this prolonged lame duck period ever since, let's say, December. And this is definitely affecting the country's negotiations and the power that comes from having, or lack thereof, having a real leader with the Trump administration. However, working level talks can and should continue to move forward. And this lame duck period shouldn't turn the country's economy into what we call sitting ducks, where we're just kind of out there, right, in the wind, making us an open target. We definitely don't want that. Well, we're going to leave that story there for now and talk about something that I'm going to talk about a little later on in the program, scams and phishing. And we definitely want to raise awareness about this, right, about all the different kinds of scams out there. Because I have to say, the scammers, the con artists, they're good. They evolve. They change their methods. So what are some scam or phishing methods you have heard about? Or maybe you've been even approached with. 자, 요즘 피싱이나 사기가 기승을 부르고 있는데요. 아는 만큼 대비가 가능하잖아요. 그렇죠? 그래서 대비하기 위해 내가 겪어본 혹은 들어본 사기나 피싱 수법은, and the reason once again, we want to get your take, your stories, so that we can help each other, we can warn each other about phishing and scams like that. So send in your stories, your opinions to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So go to the YouTube platform and type in BEFM or Busan 영어 방송 to find our channel. You can subscribe, log in, and chat with our other waivers. Also from your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That will cost you 101. We're also available on Kakao Talk, so if you have that, you can send in your messages for free. And also, the good thing about this is you can send in photos. And by the way, when you send in the photos, you're giving us implicit, permission to post those photos on our YouTube channel. And the ways you can listen to us and watch us these days, listening-wise, 90.5 or 103.3 FM on the radio if you're in the Busan area. Like I said, we're streaming live right now on YouTube. You can watch again at your leisure. And we have two apps, the BFM app and the Patbang app, the latter of which you can listen to the Wa글와글 segment. It is Monday, so what can we look forward to? Well, first up, we have later, coming up in hour number 1, Melissa with Cultural Interlude. She's filling in for Michael this week. And later on in hour number 2, we have Claire coming in for News in Depth. For our special interview, we're going to be focusing on what's happening with Syria's new chapter. Because we know President or former President Bashar al-Assad has been removed, right, as a leader. And in terms of Syria, I mean, at a crossroads right now with a surprising new shift from the U.S. government. So let's find out more about this with our expert in hour number 2. And I'll be back with News Overview. It's now 7:07, and this is News Overview. Presidential candidates face off in first TV debate. The Democratic Party or DP candidate I재명, the People Power Party or PPP's Kim they sparred over strategies to revive South Korea's struggling economy, as the Reform Party's Lee Jun-suk and Democratic Labor Party's Kwon Young-guk outlined their economic policies during the first televised presidential debate. 45th anniversary of May 18th Democratic Uprising held in Gwangju. DP presidential candidate I재명, Reform Party's Lee Jun-suk, and Democratic Labor Party's Kwon Young-guk attended the ceremony with a commemorative speech from acting President Lee Joo-ho, who emphasized unity and dialogue. Main flames contained a massive Kumho tire fire. Firefighters yesterday contained the main blaze of a massive fire at Kumho tire plant in Gwangju nearly 32 hours after it started. Trump says South Korea wants to negotiate trade deal with U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump says he believes South Korea wants to negotiate a trade deal with the United States, but that he is not going to make deals with every country. Israel announces extensive new ground operation in Gaza. The Israeli military says it has begun extensive ground operations throughout northern and southern Gaza as part of a new assault on the territory. And this was News Overview. It's time for Now in Busan. We have Sejin in the studio. Let's say hi first. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, I had. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I had a very restful weekend, and I am just ready to go on this Monday morning. So happy to be back. Today, though, we're talking about, for a text topic, something not so happy. Scams,
Yeah.
phishing. Have you, I hope not, but have you been a victim? Have you heard about any recently?
I was a victim once. So
Oh, really?
I sent 500 million. Oh, no, million. 500 won before.
501 or 500,000 won?
1,000 won.
50만 원?
Yeah, 10만 원.
How
yeah.
did it happen?
I fell for this phishing, and they weren't Koreans. They were Chinese. And I didn't think 1 second that I would be the one who did it.
Yes.
But it sounds completely
Legitimate?
Yeah, because it's really complicated, and it was public offering, and they were like, "Oh, I can get more profit, and I can get like higher interest." So I fall for it.
Oh, no. Oh. Well, I hope you learned a valuable lesson, which
Yeah,
is...
I learned a few.
A few lessons?
Yeah.
Like, number one, don't trust anyone. I laugh because out of nervousness, because I've heard of like... sometimes really terrible stories from people I know who are absolutely really, really smart, but then in the moment,
Yeah.
you know, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
they fall victim to, you know, voice phishing or scams. And that's the whole point, that they're so good at it, right? And that's why we're spreading the word about some specific ones, so we can definitely be warned. Well, we're going to jump into our first story. So this is regarding, I guess, the Busan Tourism Organization. So tell us about this.
A Busan Tourism Organization released a survey about foreign visitors to the city. It turns out people stay for about 6.2 days on average. And the thing they were most happy with was the kindness of staff.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. So did it differ much depending on, I guess, where the visitors were from?
Yes, Japanese tourists stayed the shortest, about 4.6 days, and visitors from Chinese-speaking regions stayed for about 5.5 days. And those from Europe and the US stayed between 6 and 7 days. Russian stays the longest, about 9 days on average.
I see. And so, and how many times had they been to Busan?
People had visited Busan 1.5 times over the past 3 years.
Oh.
Japanese visited the most, 2.4 times on average.
So that's interesting to know. And what about how much they spent? Because, you know, when we talk about visitors, it's like so lovely to have them in our city. But we also do want to know, like, the economic impact.
Yeah, each person spent about $800.
Okay.
But Japanese tourists spent relatively lower, around $600, while those from Europe and US spent a bit more, $1,000.
I see. And what actually did they do while they were here? What did they do?
It's that most of them enjoy the natural scenery, then trying local food, shopping, and leisure and sport. Especially Taiwanese visitors took part in festivals and performances more than others.
I see. Well, it sounds like, you know, people were enjoying themselves. That's definitely a good thing. So what did tourists like best? What was our favorite thing about Busan?
When it comes to what tourists were most happy about during their visit was staff friendliness, top the list. And the lowest score was variety and food, pricing of food.
Oh, really? Oh, that's unfortunate. Maybe we can somehow, kind of up the score on that as well, right? To have better variety and maybe, I don't know, lower food
100%,
prices.
yeah.
I would be happy with that too. But thank you for going over the details of this. So what is next on the agenda?
Busan has set up a new monitoring system that lets the city check groundwater levels and quality in real time using its observation network.
So does this mean that they can actually track the water in real time now? And how does that even work? The logistics of this.
Okay, the city says this will help them quickly respond to any sudden changes like a sharp drop in water levels or a serious decline in the quality.
Yes.
In places like Dongdae and Haeundae, where lots of hot spring water is used, this system can also help shape future policies on how to develop and manage those resources.
I see. And what did the officials or, what did they say regarding this?
It's that Busan is the first city in the country to build such a system that monitors both quality and levels.
Okay.
And they'll be taking more structured approach going forward.
I see. So thank you for telling us about the groundwater monitoring system. And let's move on. We've talked about this site, this zoo in Busan on our program several times before. So we're talking about, Samjang, I believe the park is what it's called. So what's going on? It's closed now, is it not?
Yes, it's closed. The city is providing emergency food support to the animals at 삼정더파크. At the Zoo's parents company has run into financial dispatch.
Yes.
So if I give you a little bit of background,
Sure.
what happened? Back in February, there was a tragic fire at the construction site in Busan, which left 6 people dead. The company behind the site, Samjung Enterprise, ended up filing for court receivership. Now the problem is, though, they also own a zoo called 삼정더파크.
Ah, yes. So, so this is all kind of related because it's the same parent company. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it is. Because the parent company is in financial trouble, the zoo's been struggling as well. So due to continued losses, it's been closed since April 2020. But even though it's shut, they still have to look after nearly 500 animals. And that costs a bit. We are talking around 1.4 billion won a year for just feed and staff wages.
Right, because you got to pay the people who are feeding the animals as well. Who or what entity has stepped up?
It's actually the Busan city is helping out. They've decided to use emergency funds to provide food for animals until September. The city will be supplying essentials like hay, meat, fruit, and feed and sending it over.
So I hear that there is a lawsuit going on as well regarding this whole story, right?
There is. The company wants the city to buy the zoo for 50 billion won, but they lost in the lower court.
Yes.
So now the case is now in the Supreme Court.
And it is pending.
Yeah, pending.
We'll give you the results of that decision when it comes down. All right, let's move on and talk about the city tour bus. What's going on here?
So starting from the 28th of this month,
Yes.
the Busan Tourism Organization is launching a brand new city tour bus route called East Busan Themed Route.
Okay. So how is the new East Busan route different from, I guess you would say, the old Blue Line service?
It's quite different from the old Blue Line service, which used to run on a loop with multiple buses.
Okay.
This one feels more private coach. It runs just once a day, and only if there are at least six passengers with a maximum of 40.
I believe it's at least 8 passengers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The journey starts at Busan Station at 10 in the morning and takes you through some of the East Busan's top spots, including
Yes.
Busan Port Bridge, Gwangalli Beach, the Cinema Street, Haeundae Mipo, Gyeonggongsa Temple, Daejeon Port, and Imlang Beach. And you'll be back at Busan Station by 6
I
p.m.
see. So that is a nice little route there. But what's the reason behind this new service?
The idea is to promote tourism in East Busan, which has been a bit overlooked during recent years.
Okay.
According to tourism organization, the route may change slightly depending on what's going on locally. So a bit of flexibility.
Well, I like that they're going to be flexible to, I guess, keep up with demand and what's kind of hot and trendy. So thank you for going over all the local news. And of course, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Sajin.
My pleasure.
All right. And I'll be back with your traffic and weather.
The Korea Broadcast Advertising Cooperation (KOBACO) is offering support for the production of broadcast advertisements for innovative small and medium-sized enterprises. Up to 45 million Korean won is available for television advertisements and up to 3 million Korean won for radio advertisements. Applications will be accepted until 6 p.m. on June 2nd. For more information, please visit the KOBACO website. We appreciate your interest.
It's time for your traffic report. There is a cargo truck that is broken down on Ulsukdo-dae로 from Jangpyeong Underpass to Ulsukdo Bridge, right past the underpass. There's also an accident on Jungwang Expressway going towards Daedong. There's an accident at Daedong Tollgate. It's congested on Dongso Overpass from Pumniko Ramp to the old Kaegum Tollgate, and it's also looking slow on Gwanmun-dae로 from Pangnam Tunnel to Baegang Tunnel. As for the weather, it's currently 14 degrees Celsius. It's going to go up to 23. Clouds are expected later on in the afternoon. It's going to be cloudy across the country with sporadic rain in the afternoon across parts of the capital area, Gangwon, Chungcheong, Jeolla, and Gyeongsang. The daytime highs will go up to around 25 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. This was your traffic and weather. It's time for top stories, and we have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Yes.
Did not realize this looks so similar on camera.
Like off camera, not so much. On camera, wow,
yeah,
not again.
It's the Cardigan sisters.
Again.
Yeah, we are the Cardigans.
You know what it is, though? It's like people only see like the upper half.
Right.
And we look very different on the...
I'm in a tulle skirt.
And I'm wearing like black slacks.
Yes.
And then my cardigan is like really long, and hers is kind of, to
it's
the waist.
short,
But from waist up, we are twins.
But right now we're like tomato.
Yes. It's like, hey.
Anywho.
Have you ever fallen victim or heard about any like of the latest scams?
Attempted. So I never ever transferred money because
Okay.
I mean, us in this job, we like
Yes.
are skeptical of everything. It's
Everything
like,
and anything.
Are you? Well, I got a call years
Yes.
back from this prosecutor, I think something 지검 서부지검, Seoul, some 춘천, and it was
Right.
like 김민수. It's very like nondescript name, and I was
Right.
like, and he's like, yeah, your like bank account has been involved in this whatever case, and I was like, and it's like 누구시라고요? And I was like, so who? Wait, again, you're like prosecutor 김민수 from 서부지검. And he's like, yes. I was like, all right, so I'll call you back. So I hung up.
On your
and
landline?
I did. And I like looked up the number for the Western prosecutor's office,
right.
and I called them and I was like, is there a prosecutor, Kim whatever? And he's like, no. I was like, yeah, so here's the scam number. They tried to scam me.
gosh.
Here's the number. You guys do with that information what you will. So yeah. Always
Yes.
call back. But I know these days they can like embed malware onto your phone where it like goes directly to the other person's line. So if you are able to use someone
Right.
else's phone to call the legitimate number, anyways, awareness is key.
That like prosecutor phone call is kind of a common one. My
It's so
daughter
common,
was
right?
this close to falling victim.
Oh.
And so she was on the phone with this so-called prosecutor, but she was texting me at the same time.
Oh, that's good.
And then I was just like yelling
Yeah.
at her over,
Get off the phone.
get off the phone. It's a scam. It's a scam.
By the way, from what I've heard
Yes.
from people who have been summoned to the prosecution because they were witnesses or they were involved in some kind of a criminal activity, they will actually mail you a summons.
It's usually not in the form of a phone call.
It's not a phone call. So
and
it's
they never
important.
ask for
Well,
account.
because the thing is, how would you know?
Yes.
Right. So
Exactly.
now you do. If you're listening, they usually mail you the stuff.
Okay. Well, we have another story of scamming from our producer. She says, 저는 저희 엄마한테 아들이라고 돈 달라고 연락 왔는데요. 근데 저희 집 아들이 없는데요. She's the only daughter.
It's like, what, son?
Oh, so yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to jump into our first story. So we've been combing through the pledges by the major presidential candidates, but there is one issue just beginning to gain traction.
Right. So we've been talking about the economic issues as the televised debate
Yes.
focusing on the economy was last night. But let's move on because soon there will be an issue on social issues. And one of the most divisive matters in the country is gender, women and gender-related issues.
Yes, yes.
Because this is actually the first time in 18 years that there's no female candidate on the ballot. And women or gender-related issues are, at least they were not present in any of the top 10 pledges that the candidates submitted to the Election Commission.
Okay.
Before Democratic Party's I재명, in the last presidential election 3 years ago, he did have a whole separate women's category over safety and sexual crimes and equal wages. But then this year, of the top 10, there was a pledge to boost safety for women or female small business owners and stronger punishment for domestic or dating violence.
Yes.
However, there was heightened criticism because even about how this election came about, the protests that led to the election and the impeachment of the former president, they were kind of led by young women in the so-called the K-pop light stick revolution or protests.
Okay.
So upon this, his campaign actually announced a new package of female-centric policies on Friday. And this includes, it covers things like safety, stronger punishment for domestic violence, and expanding women's housing, CCTV installation, protection against sexual digital crimes, and fair wages.
Yes, indeed. So what about in the conservative sphere? What's going on there?
Right. So looking at People Power Party or PPP candidate Kim currently his only female-related policy is to take female enlistments in the military for a gender-equal military system.
Okay.
Also expanding support for childcare, but then that's more family policy as opposed to specifically women.
Okay.
And then looking to Reform Party's Lee Jun-seok, he has, as he has done before, put down closing down the Gender Equality and Family Ministry as his top pledge, which was also the case 3 years ago.
I see. And this lack of gender-related pledges, should it be taken as a lack of gender-related issues or problems in the country, right?
So it's not because we are some gender equal utopia. So in the last few years, South Korea's gender equality has actually declined by 0.8 points. And also The Economist, a UK publication, they have this glass ceiling index,
Right.
유리천장지수. It showed that South Korea's glass ceiling is the worst out of 29 OECD countries covered in that index.
The worst?
The worst. And we also have the biggest gender pay gap out of the OECD. So once again, pundits say the lack of these gender-related pledges, it's not due to a lack of problems in the country, but that this may have stemmed from more of a political calculation. At least one party wants to focus on things like insurrection and martial law to get
Yes.
votes. Rather than try to secure support from younger women, they kind of see that as it's in the bag already.
Interesting. Well, with just a little over 2 weeks left until the election itself, we're going to take a look, the latest look at the public opinion polls.
Right. So DP's candidate I재명, he went over the 50% threshold for the first time.
Okay.
And this is according to the Korea Gallup poll released on Friday. The poll itself was conducted from May 13th to the 15th over 1,004 adults 18 and older. But do keep in mind that this, again, was conducted and released before the first televised debate. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
So here, 51% of the voters said that they supported Democratic Party's candidate I재명. For PPP's 김문수, 29%. Reform Party's Lee Jun-seok, 8%. But there was still a significant 12% of the voters who said they're undecided, with 1% saying someone else on the list.
Okay.
This poll, by the way, has a 95% rate of confidence with plus or minus 3.1% margin of error. Here's an interesting voting pattern based on political affiliation or ideology. Basically, what party you usually support. 94% of Democratic Party supporters said they'll vote for the party's candidate, I재명. Keep that in mind, 94. So a very large number.
Yes.
But for PPP supporters, 86% said they'll vote for the party's candidate. So that is a significant difference.
Yes.
For people who didn't have party affiliations, 22% supported 이재명, 11% for 김문수, higher 16% for 이 준석. And that left a crucial 50% vote of the undecided voters who have yet to make up their mind. 이재명 and 김문수 received about the same amount of support for both genders,
Sure.
51% of men and women. But interestingly, there was a big difference for 이 준석. He was more polarizing because 10% of men said they'll vote for 이 as opposed to 5% of women who said they'll vote for 이 준석.
I see.
By the way, for details, please refer to the National Election Survey Deliberation Commission.
Indeed, indeed. So how did the candidates respond to these results that we just spoke about?
Right, so 이재명 warned caution, basically telling the party to put their head down, to continue to plead for votes, and humbly wait for the results.
Okay.
The things were more urgent for the People Power Party as they see the need to distance themselves from the ousted former president in order to get the more moderate and undecided votes. However, the party and the candidate, they've been pushing that off to each other.
Yes, yes. So that is, the latest in terms of the polling. Actually, after weeks of controversy, so we, have talked about this. People have been talking about this with each other. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol apparently officially left the People Power Party?
He did. So he announced his departure from the People Power Party on Saturday via a Facebook post in which he also said, although Yoon he is leaving the party, he will continue to stand at the forefront to defend freedom and national sovereignty. So this maybe hints at political participation. Yoon also called on voters to unite behind his party's candidate, Kim Munsu, emphasizing the importance of participating in the upcoming June 3rd election.
All right. So we're going to leave politics there for now. For our next story, let's look at the latest developments on this whole SK Telecom SIM card breach. What's going on?
So there are multiple group lawsuits or class action lawsuits, 집단 소송, brewing right now. A major one filed by 9,000 customers against SKT or SK Telecom, claiming 500,000 won, so 50만 원 per person in damages. So that would be 4.6 billion won for this particular lawsuit. So the law firm Lawfeed's attorney Ha Bong is representing these clients and submitted the paperwork to the courts on Friday.
Okay.
So Ha says that users are suffering from this realistic fear that their personal information has been leaked and they are maybe victims of USIM copying. So they had to not only change their SIM cards, but also have seen restrictions on certain finance or banking services. The attorney also called on SKT to transparently disclose the content and the extent of this leak, and also to be clear about whether the security key number for the USIMs were leaked as well.
Yes.
Another law firm, Lawgoes, has also filed 2 cases representing 320 clients, claiming 300,000 won per person, and the list actually goes on and on.
And the thing is this, it's not just the lawsuits. The telecom company is losing customers, their users.
Right.
Leaving
So
in droves.
SKT had 23.1 million subscribers or members, taking 40% of the market share. That was in March,
Yes.
before the privacy leak, after they have fallen below the 23 million line as of April.
Yes.
And this is according to the Korea Telecommunications Operation Association, which reported between April 22nd and May 15th, a total of 345,000 members left SKT and moved to a different telecom company.
I see. So not a good month.
Not a good time right
Yes,
now.
yes. All right, we're going to move on to some international news. Delegates from Ukraine and Russia met in Turkey, also known as Turkey A, on Friday. So did they come to any sort of agreement?
Some sort, not the one that we were hoping for, which
Yes.
is a ceasefire.
Uh-huh.
So the talks were mediated by Turkey and lasted less than 2 hours, with sharp divisions seen pretty much from the get-go. So Ukraine said Russia made new and unacceptable demands,
Yes.
including insisting Kyiv withdraw its troops from large parts of its own territory in exchange for a ceasefire.
Okay.
So again, there were no breakthroughs in terms of a ceasefire, but they did reach an agreement for a prisoner swap agreement, 1,000 prisoners of war or POWs from each side.
Yes.
A date apparently has been determined, but it hasn't been announced.
And once again, President Donald Trump stepping in.
Right. So Donald Trump said that he will speak to both Vladimir Putin Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. Putin on Monday local time and confirmed this has been confirmed by the Kremlin. And Trump also called this a bloodbath war. And he also said that this call with the Russian president will be followed by a separate call with the Ukrainian president and also NATO leaders as part of the U.S. efforts to end the war.
Yes. So that is what's happening there. But we're going to stay on the U.S. for our next story. And some of you have been talking about it actually in our chat room on YouTube. But former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with cancer.
Right. So the 82-year-old former President Joe Biden, he has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. That's 전립선암. And this is according to a statement from his personal office. This is breaking news, actually. Unfortunately, it has metastasized, which means it has spread to his bones.
Right.
The statement continued, though, while this is a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive. So basically, it could be managed. At least that's what the office says.
Yes.
And the family, they're viewing treatment options with his doctor. So we will keep you updated on this issue.
Right. So definitely, of course, whichever way your political tendencies are, of course, we wish the best for former President Joe Biden. For a final story, Pope Leo XIV held his inaugural mass, right?
Right. So officially, former Cardinal Robert Prevost is now Pope Leo XIV.
Yes.
And he officially marked the beginning of his term with his inaugural or first mass misa, during which he called for more love and unity.
Yes.
He wants the church to be this base for unity when there is just too much discord and too many wounds happening in the world. He also issued this condemnation of an economic system that exploits the earth's resources and marginalizes the poorest. And in a symbolic move, the first person he met after that mass was Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who attended the mass, followed by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, with whom he discussed the upcoming phone call between Donald Trump and the Russian president.
I see. Very interesting there. Well, thank you so much for going over all the news. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And we are ready for our first song break. So here it is. If it's Loving That You Want, this is by Rihanna.
I wanna let you know that you don't have to go. Don't wonder no more what I think about you. If it's something that you want, you should make me your girl, your girl. If it's something that you need, then baby, come and share my world, share my world. If it's something that you want, come and take a walk with me, with me. If it's everything that you need, I got it right here, baby. Now it's obvious you need a friend to come hold you down. Be that one to share your everything when no one's around. Baby, come tell me your secrets and tell me all your dreams. Cause I can see you need someone to trust. You can trust in me. So just call me whenever you're lonely. I'll be your friend, I could be your home. If you want, then you should make me your girl, your girl. If it's something that you need, then baby, come and share my world, share my world. Whoa. If it's something that you want, come and take a walk with me, walk with me. Yeah, everything that you need, I got it right here, baby. It's been so long, I've had this feeling that we could be everything you've ever wanted, and your fantasy. I won't push too hard to break your heart, 'cause my love's sincere. I'm not like any other girl, you know. So let me erase your fears. So just call me whenever you're lonely. I'll be your friend, I could be your homie. You should make me your girl, your girl. If it's something that you need, then baby, come and share my world, share my world. If it's something that you want, come and take a walk with me, walk with me, baby. Everything that you need, I got it right here, baby. Oh, if it's something that you want, you should make me your girl, make me your girl, baby. If it's something that you need, baby, come and share my world. I got what you need, so come share my world. If it's something that you want, come and take a walk with me, walk with me. Everything that you need, I got it right here, baby, baby. So just call me whenever you're lonely. wanna let you know that you don't have to go. Don't wonder no more what I think about you. What I think about you, boy. I got what you need, so come share my world. Oh, no,
It's time for Cultural Interlude, and guess who's here? Because Michael's away on business. We have Melissa.
Hello,
oh my gosh, with your beautiful Denmark.
Yeah,
what's
Team
going on?
Denmark. Well,
Eurovision, right? I mean,
yes,
for
yes.
perspective.
Yes, for perspective.
listeners.
I feel like I can only proudly wear my Danish flag shirt when it's like football games, soccer games, right? But I don't really keep up with World Cup, etc.
Okay.
And Eurovision. So,
Love it.
have to
Yes.
support.
I love it. I love it. I was like, you walked in, you were like, ooh.
Yeah, because if listeners, if you're not familiar with the
Yes.
Danish flag, it's bright red. So my shirt is all red with then the white stripe
Yes.
in the middle and along the side.
Exactly.
So, hey, go Denmark. Yeah.
So now that we have a better understanding of why you're dressed like that,
Yes.
we're going to jump into Cultural Interlude. So what do you have for us this week?
Well, of course, we're going to talk Eurovision, but first, we're going to talk other things in other parts of the world. The U.S., they released this year's list of most popular baby names. So most popular from 2024 and their projection for what will be popular in the coming years, because it follows the ongoing naming trend of English names following the 100-year cycle.
Ooh, this is interesting. So first of all, what is this 100-year cycle? What exactly is this?
Right. This is a trend of reusing baby names that were trending 100 years ago. Because most parents don't want their kids to have the same names that were common when they were growing up.
Right.
So right now, Gen MZ, they're having kids and they're tired of Ashley, Samantha, Emily, Matthew, Joshua, Chris. They're tired of it. But if we go back only 50 years instead of 100, then we've got baby boomer names.
Such as
Susan, Karen, Sharon, Bill, Dick, Dennis. And so these names, they're old enough to be out of date,
Yes.
but not old enough to be cool again.
not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
So we have to go further into the past.
Okay.
100 years.
Oh.
That's like the magic number for
I
when the
like.
names in English cycle back.
Okay. So what are some English names from 100 years ago that are gonna become popular?
So I'm curious, when you think of maybe your own grandmother or grandfather's names, or other just when you think grandmother, grandfather name, what pops into your mind? Any name
granny
anything come to mind?
I'm going to try to stay away from some of our listeners, their names, because I don't want to offend anybody.
Well, because I can give an example. I'm wearing the Danish flag today.
Right.
So if I go to my Danish grandmother's side, her name was Emma.
That's such a pretty name, though.
If it sounds familiar, it's because it was already trending again early 2000s.
Right.
So that pretty much follows the 100-year cycle. My grandmother, Emma, she was born in 1913. Her older sister, Grace, that one also
Another
cycled
one?
back. 1911 is when she was born.
Wow.
So,
Because my grandfather on my maternal side, it's 배 삼자 술자, but he had an English name. I don't know why he did. It was Samuel. But I think it was because it was like from the Bible.
yes, it's a very classic name.
Right, it's a
though.
classic name, right?
Yes.
And then also, my father-in-law, his English name, can I say it on
Are you allowed to say it on air?
Harry.
Okay.
Harold Harry.
Well, yes,
And
I
the
think
reason why is he liked the movie Dirty Harry.
Okay.
Clint Eastwood.
From a movie. But Harold
Yes.
also, I think that one maybe still a little bit more time.
Before
but
it gets trendy again, right?
maybe 10 years.
Okay.
I would say.
Oh,
we
it's
would
gonna come back?
Yes. That's like borderline. A little bit baby boomer still. A little bit
Okay,
young.
okay.
But yeah, I think that'll be coming back. So names that already they are back and they are coming back. Eleanor. Like Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes.
Similarly, Agatha. I think of the mystery writer.
Agatha Christie?
Right. Yes. Eloise.
Oh, that's such a pretty name.
Flora. That was my great aunt's name. Also Danish side. We're representing today.
Okay.
Margaret.
Margaret.
Alma. I haven't heard Alma before, but I like that. Yeah. Another one popular again. Barbara.
Barbara.
Yeah, I'm
Babs.
surprised. Like the Barbie doll created
Yeah.
in 1959.
Oh, so it's going to come back soon.
It's coming back.
Okay. So, in
Because
terms...
those are just the girls' names.
Right.
Yes.
So what about for the boys? Because we don't want to discriminate.
Right. So on the
Yes.
boys' side, we've got George.
George Clooney. George.
I was thinking Prince William and Princess Kate, right?
Their son,
their
George.
oldest
Prince
son is
George.
George.
Yes.
So I think that one's been on the rise for a
Yes.
while because of him.
Uh-huh.
Other grandfather names coming back in force are Theodore or Theo.
I like Theo.
Right? That's a nice one. Oliver, Jasper, and Silas.
Silas.
Yeah, Silas, as a farm kid, it makes me think of a silo.
Yeah.
You know, the big, tall tower filled
Exactly.
with grain on the farm. I'm sure city people don't get the same imagery, but Silas is coming back.
I get it. Silas coming back. So with the
Yes.
names of, I guess, like our grandparents' generation, like kind of trending the English names, that means other names are now out of style. So which English names are losing popularity right now?
Basically, everything ending in Aiden.
Oh, like a Jaden?
Yes, Jaden, Braden, Aiden, Caden. No more Aidens.
Okay.
And also no more Liam either.
Oh, I like Liam, but okay,
because
that's
in the
losing.
last 5 years, it was in the top.
So popular.
Yes.
So many.
So it's kind of overused. People don't want their kid to have a name where they go to school and what's your name? Liam.
Liam.
Right?
What?
For girls, Taylor is mentioned over and over
Yes.
as one that's decreasing in popularity. Other ones on the downward trend are Jamie, Chelsea, and Kelsey.
Oh, those are on the way out.
Yes.
So, okay, now
But
we
they'll
know.
come back in 100 years. Yes.
Love it. I love this whole idea of the 100-year cycle.
Yeah.
So who knows? When our names, Melissa,
Yeah.
Catherine, will be trending us soon. We promise.
Soon. Well,
Soon.
not
Always.
that soon. Yeah.
Soon. But not that soon. We're not
Yeah.
that old yet.
Not that old yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next story, which is...
Woohoo! Eurovision!
Da-da-da!
Let's talk Eurovision. So
Yes.
first, we have a lot to catch up on. We had last week the semifinals.
Yes.
So the semifinals were on Tuesday and Thursday, Europe time, and then the final was Saturday.
Okay.
But before we talk about the final, let's get into the semifinals a little bit. So, lots of twists and turns. Some online commenters said it was the strangest and most random Eurovision I have ever watched, to be honest, to which people replied, "How many have you watched?" And you must be kidding. Every year gets weird.
Oh, we love weird.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what gets us talking.
It does.
So, any highlights?
Oh, yes. So, Estonia, we previously played a clip
Oh, yes.
of this, right? Espresso Macchiato. They
That's
were
right.
in semifinal one. Vocals were weaker than expected, but probably because he had some of the most intense, and let's be honest, intense and weird dancing.
Oh, really?
But, it's good weird.
Oh, good
Espresso Macchiato. You know the song.
The song is so cute and catchy.
Yes, yes. So we had a lot of songs that failed to make the final. So Ireland, Czech Republic, some vocal issues, didn't make it to the final.
Okay.
Switzerland, it was lucky they automatically qualified to the final due to winning last year.
Yes.
Because the cameras stopped working. during their performance. So that was very
Ooh.
unexpected.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Any surprises, or maybe shall I say, let me rephrase, surprise disqualifications?
Yeah, I think Red Sebastian from Belgium was the biggest upset. He had great vocals, but ultimately I think it was the dancey track combined with English lyrics that hurt him. So dance songs from Croatia, Cyprus, and one of my favorites, Azerbaijan, all eliminated.
Okay.
Viewers noted only one all-English language song qualified for the final from semifinal group 1, and that was Norway. Spoiler alert, Norway did not end up doing that well in the final. So this has people predicting next year Eurovision will have more songs performed in each country's native language.
I like that idea, though. I mean, why does it have to be English? Right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Right. So, any surprises, any good ones, positive ones from the semifinals?
Yes, I'm wearing the shirt. Gotta talk about Denmark. So,
Yes.
Last time I told you I actually liked Denmark's song this year. It's by Sissel. It's called Hallucination. Europe agreed with me. Denmark's song made it into the grand final. First time in 6 years for Denmark.
Sure.
And many people criticized her staging for the Danish final and said, change everything for the Eurovision semifinal.
I see.
And she listened, and she did, and it turned out pretty successfully for Denmark.
Sure.
Not so much for Australia. Their song Milkshake Man, 3 minutes of thirst trapping on Eurovision, pretty much. They did not make it. So it was trending Justice for Australia. That was the trending statement for them. So that was a quick summary of the semifinals.
Okay, well, we got to get to the Eurovision Grand Final.
Yeah, so one of the upsets of the night, it was from Poland. This is depressing. We have a clip.
Okay.
Take a listen to this highlight clip, which is supposed to encourage people to vote for a specific country, in this case, Poland. Take a listen. And that's it. What did you hear?
Not Poland.
There was no singing in that clip. It was only background music.
Right, what was that?
Exactly. So that's what everybody was saying.
I was trying to catch it. I was listening so, carefully.
Yeah. Everybody had the same idea. Like, what was that? It did not do Poland any favors. She was not singing at all in that clip. So the song recap editors chose the worst possible clip for Poland. And they ended up in a rather disappointing 14th place. People thought they would definitely be in the top 10.
Okay.
So that's depressing. Speaking of depressing,
Yes.
after getting 214 points for the international jury vote, Switzerland set a record
With?
biggest gap in jury votes and televotes ever.
Oh.
Switzerland got 0 televotes. So
Is that
making
possible?
them ranked second with the jury, but dead last with the general public.
Wow.
That is very shocking. Really sad
yeah.
day for Switzerland.
Why did it not resonate? I don't understand, but okay.
Yeah.
Any good surprises?
Yes. Best surprise of the night for most people was bringing in the second place winners from the last 2 years, and they did a song battle. It was so epic. We have a clip. This is from that battle. So it's 2024's second place finisher, Baby Lasagna, and he's battling 2023's second place finisher, Karacha. Listen to this. This is amazing.
Wanna be covered in city boys. They're all so pretty and so advanced. Maybe they also know our dance. 일단 엉비아라 놀이 여얼거 구모터 다야이네 누고 고리 Oh my god Bye mom, bye dad, meow cat please meow back. Don't cry, just dance. Dim daggy diggy dim dim dim. There's no going back. My precious makes the black. Yeah, there's no going back. My anxiety is
So if I'm not mistaken, those were like two different songs. It was like a mashup?
Yes.
Okay,
Those
okay.
were two totally different songs. So it started with Baby Lasagna, Rin Tim Tagi. And so he's the one saying, bye, mom, bye, dad. Meow, cat, please meow
Yes,
back.
yes.
And then you've got, so Baby Lasagna, by the way, from Croatia. And then you've got Finland's entry, and that is the cha, 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 cha. And they mashed together so fantastically well. People said it was the best part of the final.
Well, we're out of time. So
sad.
We are. So in terms of the actual winner, we have. Which country won?
Austria. We played them last time.
Yes.
Wasted Love. Do we have time for this clip? Maybe we don't have time for this clip. We played it last time. It is Wasted Love by JJ from Austria. It's a mix of pop, EDM, and opera.
Yes, I remember that one.
And yes, he was the winner of my heart also over Europe. Number one in jury votes, 258 points. And then televotes, he got about 178 for the win.
Yay.
Austria will host Eurovision next year.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in for Cultural Interlude. We do appreciate it. Thank you, Melissa.
Yes, always a pleasure.
All right. Let's get to our final song for hour number one, Rude by Magic. So enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
Got in my car, raced like a jet, all the way to you. Knocked on your door with heart in my head to ask you a question, 'cause I know that you're an old-fashioned man. Yeah. Can I have your daughter for the rest of my life? Say yes, 'cause I need to know. Say I'll never get your blessing till the day I die. Suffer love with my friend, but the answer is no. Why you gotta be so rude? Don't you know I'm human too? Why you gotta be so rude? I'm gonna marry you anyway. Marry that girl. Marry you anyway. Marry that girl. Yeah, no matter what you say. Marry that girl. And we'll be a family. Why you gotta be so rude? I hate to do this, you leave no choice.
를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
꿈의 가치를 생각합니다. 빛나는 아이디어로 도전하는 청년의 꿈. 새로운 기술로 시작하는 스타트업의 꿈. 더 크게, 더 높이 성장하는 유니콘의 꿈. 가능성과 잠재력에 주목한다면 꿈은 무한한 미래가 됩니다. 현재보다 미래 가치로 모두의 성장이 모두의 미래가 되는 사회. 우리가 함께 만들어갑니다. 이 캠페인은 기술 기업의 스타트업부터 스케일업까지 함께하는 혁신 성장 플랫폼 기술보증기금이 함께합니다.
5월 24일 토요일 오후 1시
영화의 전당 야외 무대에서 만나는 작은 지구촌 축제. 영어와 음악이 함께합니다.
BFM All-Star English 공개 방송. Hello world, let's be friends.
저 에이시아 푸기.
And me, 민수.
그리고 개그맨 이상훈.
감사합니다.
가수 와니와 아론. 래퍼 윤비까지 이 라인업 실화.
From a fun English quiz to a freestyle rap battle, get ready for a time full of laughter, music, and making new friends with All-Star English.
May 24th, Saturday 1 p.m. 영화의 전당에서 우리 그날 친구 할까요?
The weather is so nice today. I'm sure this won't be a big deal.
A 3-second long lapse in judgment can burn up an entire mountain, which will take 100 years to recover. We can protect these lush forests if you follow these guidelines. First, do not bring flammable materials to the mountains. Second, do not cook or camp in the mountains. Third, do not litter cigarette butts. Your small actions are the first step towards protecting the beautiful forest. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산 영어 방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's now 8 o'clock. This is Morning Wave in Busan, and we're going to begin with Spotlight News. Presidential candidates face off in first TV debate. Democratic Party or DP candidate I재명 and People Power Party PPP's Kim sparred over strategies to revive South Korea's struggling economy, as Reform Party's Lee Jun-suk and Democratic Labor Party's Kwon Young-guk outlined their economic policies during their first televised presidential debate. In the debate hosted by the National Election Commission or NEC last night, candidates expressed differing views on the role of government and how to approach trade negotiations with Trump. I재명 indicated a cautious approach toward negotiations and a swift implementation of a supplementary budget for economic revitalization. Kim-Munsu, on the contrary, pledged to ease business regulations and increase incentives for companies and seek a summit with Trump. 45th anniversary of May 18th Democratic Uprising held in Gwangju. Some presidential candidates and political leaders honored the victims of the May 18th pro-democracy uprising in Gwangju during the 45th anniversary ceremony yesterday. DP presidential candidate I재명, Reform Party's Lee Jun-suk, and Democratic Labor Party's Kwon Young-guk attended the ceremony with a commemorative speech from acting President Lee Joo-ho, who emphasized unity and dialogue. The May 18th Foundation expressed its regrets via a press release over the presence of armed military personnel in a similar attire as soldiers who were dispatched during last year's martial law imposition, which the government explained as necessary security personnel. Main flames contained a massive Kumho tire fire. Firefighters yesterday contained the main blaze of a massive fire at Kumho tire plants in Gwangju nearly 32 hours after it started. The fire broke out Saturday morning, suspected to have started from heating raw rubber at a 140,000 square meter factory. Over 100 residents of nearby apartments had to evacuate. Firefighters mobilized about 460 personnel and 170 pieces of equipment for the fire. Kumho Tire CEO Chung Il-taek apologized and vowed all-out recovery efforts. Trump says South Korea wants to negotiate trade deal with U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump says he believes South Korea wants to negotiate a trade deal with the United States, but that he is not going to make deals with every country. Trump claimed that about 150 countries are seeking trade agreements with the U.S. during an interview, but that he is going to set a limit as he cannot meet with everyone. His remarks come as Seoul and Washington reached a consensus for South Korea to prepare a July package aimed at removing U.S. reciprocal tariffs before a 90-day grace period ends on July 8th. Israel announces extensive new ground operation in Gaza. The Israeli military says it has begun extensive ground operations throughout northern and southern Gaza as part of a new assault on the territory. Following this announcement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office decided to resume the entry of a basic quantity of food into the enclave. Meanwhile, a senior Hamas official told U.S. media outlets that they offered to release more hostages in exchange for a 2-month ceasefire and 300 prisoners. And this was Spotlight News. It's time for Waggle Waggle. We have Haley back in the studio.
Hello, hello.
We're going to jump into this scandal. This scandal that shocked so many people. Wanted to talk about it last week, but we have more details.
We needed more information.
Yes. So this story is about none other than Sonheung-min because the police have detained a woman and a man facing allegations of blackmail against this superstar.
Right. So a pair of men and a woman, they've been detained or arrested on attempted blackmail and blackmail allegations. So it was attempted blackmail for the man and blackmail for the woman, respectively. So the man in his 40s and the woman in her 20s. And a judge at Seoul Central District Court approved the police's arrest warrant on requests on risks of attempting to destroy evidence and fleeing. So this woman, identified by her last name Yang, is reportedly an ex-girlfriend of Sonheung-min.
Okay.
And she's facing allegations of having allegedly blackmailed Son with an ultrasound photo. That's 초음파 사진 of a fetus back in June of last year.
Okay.
And she allegedly received 300 million won, 3억 won, from the soccer star, or according to some reports, his agent, as in exchange for basically to keep silent on the matter, a non-disclosure contract. And then the man, identified by his last name Yong, apparently found out about this later from the woman and attempted to contact Son in March of this year, trying to allegedly extort him out of another 70 million won. So this case is ongoing. The investigation is ongoing. The police have apparently seized their respective cell phones and will comb through the evidence, including looking for that said ultrasound photo.
I see. So,
I mean, there's rampant speculation online and in media reports, but this is at least what we know from official reports or the more credible reports. So that's where we're going to leave the story there.
Exactly, because we don't want to spread rumors and innuendo.
No.
All right, the next story goes in line with our text topic for today. There is an increasing number of no-show reservation scams.
Right. So these are scams, 사기, for businesses, especially restaurants. So it's kind of a new form, and people unfortunately get way too creative. So this is the pattern. Let's say you're a restaurant owner. You're going to call. And this person, let's say I, claim to be someone from a very well-known company or an agent for a well-known celebrity, entertainment agency, a government office, law firm, I don't know, something credible.
Yes.
I just, I reek of money in my representation. And I want to make a reservation for our company 회식. We're celebrating something. We have a really important VIP guest coming, whatever. So it's going to be a reservation for 20, 30, dozens of people.
Yes.
AKA big revenue for you. But because it's such an important event, we want to celebrate by popping this really expensive champagne, wine, whiskey. But because I represent such an important company, I don't have time. Right? So could you, here's a number for an alcohol distributor who carries this particular high-end brand. Could you get it for us and just add it to our bill?
Okay.
We'll settle everything.
And it sounds okay because you're like thinking, well, I'm going to get it back.
This sounds legit. And now you've been duped out of tens of millions of won. So this executive assistant will then text you a photo of a business card to boost credibility, along with the contact information of the said alcohol distributor.
Okay.
So, you get it for them. And this, unfortunately, is a real case that's been happening. And there are real victims, including this restaurant owner in Suwon last month. This
What
owner
exactly happened, though, with this particular case?
deposited 30 million won, 3천만 원, to buy, I'm assuming it's multiple bottles of wine.
Okay.
But several days passed with no confirmation, no follow-up on the reservation. When the owner tried to contact this number and the alcohol distributor, the number's been disconnected. The owner ended up calling that, in this particular case, the executive assistant claimed to be from this very famous entertainment agency, 소속사. He did. He called the agency, and they're like, we don't have that person on our page. Like, that's not a real person who works with us.
Oh, no.
So it turns out the business card was fake, which, in this day and age, it is it's easy. It is
You
too
just need a
easy to
printer.
get a
Right.
fake business card.
Right.
And then there was another similar case involving a 10 million won bill from someone who impersonated someone else from a Democratic Party lawmaker's office. Also happening with large orders for like firefighting suits and other equipment. And DP presidential candidate I재명's office actually sent out a warning after someone ordered 300,000 business cards bearing the office's name and tried to take 2 million won, make that in profit in a different scam. Well, here's the thing. Many issues. And then I've seen on social media from business owners saying that they've received similar calls. Thankfully, those cases, they kind of smelled something fishy and didn't really, and said, oh, we can't do that. Sorry, we don't have the resources to do that. Here's the thing about these scams, though. All of these interactions, all of these calls are made through burner phones, 대포폰, which means they're nearly impossible to trace because they're going to get rid of that phone after you deposit the money. And the company that's supposed to buy this alcohol, the so-called alcohol distributor, they're also, of course, a fake company, fake number, and an account is a borrowed name account. 사명 계좌. Again, they go through multiple steps to make it hard to trace. So, of course, and the best way is prevention, to be aware, which is why we report on these stories. So if you know business owners, restaurant owners, because in this day and age, like 회식s are kind of uncommon.
Yes.
But when a business gets a call, they really want to make that sale. They really want to make that stick.
Right.
So according to the police, public offices, 관공서, government offices, will never ask you to buy something for them. And I know we have some public officials amongst our waivers vouch for me, right? This is the case, especially something that's expensive. Why would they have expense reports? They have receipts that they need to cover. They would never have a third party buy it for you. And if you get a group reservation, it is best to at least charge a little bit in a deposit to make sure that it comes through.
People were asking, Tommy kept on asking, what about deposits? Are there no deposits for that? He was repeatedly asking me, like, oh, what did they get
And I think here's the thing, though, because we kind of have we've reported on this, how like these, the star-rated restaurants have really expensive deposits where you have to pay for the entire bill up front. And some people are kind of not too happy about that. So I think in these cases, these restaurant owners become like the ultimate They're like so down the totem pole. They really don't want to offend prospective customers. But again, you're right. Deposits, at least a little bit, it does go a long way.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
protect yourselves, please.
Indeed. Sad story. We're going to move on to our next one. May. May is the month of festivals and school events. There's so much going on in May. But one school apparently had its kids apologize in advance for their field day.
I know. Remember 운동회? Like field day, sports day.
Well, definitely, yes. For,
In the U.S., it was a little bit different.
It's completely different,
Completely different. But here's a video that's going viral on social media. Let's take a listen. Okay, that's like indecipherable, but it basically like the MC or the teacher says, like chants, we're sorry. We're gonna play a little bit today. Thank you. Basically, excuse us for the field day. It's cute, but I don't love it. Because should they have to apologize?
I don't know. Why are we so intolerant of children
And
these
also,
days?
that is like
It's
a handful of kids. That is a small class, which back
Compared
in my
to,
day,
like,
it used to be like
yeah.
the entire field full. And like, what happened to all the children? So the person who took the video, resident of an apartment that's obviously living on the higher floor, said, obviously you just see kids present, no parents, because field days used to be like family days
Not
too.
anymore.
Yeah, mom had to come with like a huge 도시락 of like the kimbap.
So banned.
I was a fan of yubuchobap, by the way. But anyways,
Banned.
no songs. The mic volume was fairly low,
Okay.
and they were only out in the field for about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So the writer said, sometimes in this day and age, it feels like you're doing something wrong just for having kids or just for kids being present.
Right.
And this may have been necessitated because, unfortunately, there were cases of people submitting complaints to the schools, district offices for these sports days or field days.
Really? But they only happen like once a year.
Even the police. So back in May of last year, in Seoul, apparently this person kept submitting complaints. The school like turned off the mic and had kids like be more subdued and wouldn't scream. But the person ended up calling the police and they actually had to stop the field day, which just... I do not represent the opinions of BFM, just my personal opinion. But can we normalize when you get really, I shouldn't say dumb, but really unreasonable complaints? Can we shut that down?
Well, the police, they have to listen to these civic complaints. They don't really have a choice.
But I'm saying, like, can we shut it down? Like, can we normalize, like, sir or ma'am, that's unreasonable. We're not going to grace that with the risk. Anyways, I understand, but I'm just saying. Anyways, other elementary schools, they've taken this indoors. Or they divide it up by classes or grade level, so it's a smaller group.
It's just not the same, though.
It's not. The whole point is that
festivities.
it's supposed to be festive.
Yes.
Others are passing out flyers and notices to nearby apartments. But here's the thing. Netizens pointed out the irony because when these, and they're usually residents, when they buy or rent these apartments, they seek out what's called 초등학교 품은 아파트. So these are large apartment complexes that have elementary schools within their community for safety. And because why? These are prime real estate options. It's a good school district. But then you know what comes with a good school district? Kids. Kids make sounds. They make noise. So it's the irony that they want the higher markup, but they don't want anything else that comes with human children being human children.
Yes.
By the way, even legally, the microphones that are used at these school events, they do not fall under the fixed amplifier noise in the current noise management laws. So they're actually, it falls upon the discretion of individual schools to manage the levels because, once again, it happens annually, once a year. And one teacher said, it's important for us to recognize that for kids, field days, playing, physically running, playing with other children and of different grades, it builds teamwork. And that is an important part of us fostering them into socialized individuals.
I mean, wasn't it always like Chung team and Pek team?
Yeah.
I remember going to like my kids' like field days, right? And like when I had 3 and they were all at the same elementary school, they were on different teams. So it was like mayhem. Running from one class to the other and like supporting each. Oh, that was tough.
And we always complain about how kids are so indoors these days. Well, but then like the moment they step outside, you get complaints. It's like, ugh.
All right. On the contrary, Japan is actually considering making childbirth free. Free. To boost its birth rate.
Right. So Japan's health ministry has announced plans to eliminate any out-of-pocket expenses for standard childbirth costs. So the goal is to have this policy go into effect by next year. And this is, of course, one of the ways that Japan, like us, they're trying to improve or boost their birth rate, which is also quite low. Of course, then how much does it cost? It varies significantly by region. And this is another one of issues that there's just so much regional discrepancy in having and raising children. But a national average for quote unquote a normal delivery, meaning without complications,
Yes.
is apparently about 500,000 yen, and that's about basically a little under 500만 원, 5 million won, even higher for Tokyo.
Okay.
So under the current system, childbirth is not covered by health insurance, but the government will provide this lump sum childbirth allowance of 500,000 yen to offset expenses. But then if you have complications or anything extra, then you have to pay out of pocket.
I see.
So they're considering a couple of different options, but the problem is it is facing pushback, especially from doctors, OBGYN doctors, who've even threatened to kind of go on strike and boycott if this goes into effect.
I see. Very interesting. And Layla had a comment saying 제가 일하는 학교도 아파트들이 많아서 운동회가 없답니다. 유유 민원 무서워서요.
I have so many thoughts about 민원. I can't. That'll get me so fired. But seriously, shut that down.
And other people saying 보통 초등학교 운동회는 동네 잔치였는데
Right?
씁쓸하네요. So it's just a different world that we live in. And I understand, like Leslie made a point, like, she's saying people are intolerant of kids because some parents, they aren't really parenting, and so there are some bratty kids.
Right.
That's like outside, but we're talking about like these field days on school premises that happen once a year, like literally once a year.
Right. It's...
It used to be
and
a
by the way, I'm
cultural
childless, and and I work from home. But like, if there's, and I live right next to a playground, and they scream so much, but I'm like, you know what? Great, play. Because I'm sure I did too. And look at the lungs on me. I'm sure I was louder than yours. So
I'm sure you were.
I'm sure, like 100% sure.
Well, thank you for all the waggly news. Get the tongues waggling out there, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right, let's get you your updated traffic and weather. It is time for your updated traffic report. So first up, there is a 3-car collision on 점포대로 from 문현 to 문전 intersection, right past the 문현 intersection. There's also an accident on Luno 삼정대로 from Byungho intersection toward Myeongji. This is a 2-car collision right past the Dongjin underpass. It's backed up on Yeonsu로 from the Shili 3-way intersection to Daesan station. There's traffic on Chungnang대로 from Pier number 5 to pier number 3. It's also looking slow on Chungnyeol대로 from Minam intersection to Mandak Tunnel number 2. It's a busy, busy Monday morning. As for the weather, it's currently 17 degrees Celsius under clear skies. It's going to go up to 23 in the afternoon. However, clouds will be rolling in. Across the nation, cloudy with sporadic rain in the afternoon across parts of the capital area. Gangwon, Chungcheong, Jeolla, and Gyeongsang. The daytime highs will go up to 25 degrees Celsius, respectively, in most parts of the country. This was your traffic and weather. This is our special interview. So, Syria has long been mired in turmoil under the regime of former President Bashar al-Assad, who was forced to step down and apparently relocated to Russia last year. And now the country stands at a crossroads with a new government in place and a surprising shift in U.S. policy. Syria faces both renewed challenges and unprecedented opportunities as well. Just to give you a brief recap, on May 13th, U.S. President Donald Trump announced the lifting of sanctions on Syria during his Middle East tour. A day later, he met with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara at the Gulf Cooperation Council Summit in Saudi Arabia. So I believe this is the first U.S.-Syria leader meeting in, 25 years. So definitely a momentous occasion. Let's find more about the situation. Joining us is once again Professor William Muck. He's a professor of political science at North Central College. Hi, welcome back, Professor.
Always nice to be here with you.
Yes. So first of all, we know that Syria, especially in the past, has faced so many international sanctions. So can you briefly explain what they were? What were the purpose of these sanctions?
Well, they go back for decades, right? So the United States first put sanctions on Syria in 1979. And those initial sanctions were the United States categorized Syria as a terrorist regime. And so we saw decades of those. In 2005, there was some activity. Syria was supporting terrorist activity in Lebanon. So that brought a new wave of them on. But the most recent wave really grew out of the Arab Spring. In 2011, you saw Bashar al-Assad, the president, start cracking down on the opposition. He used chemical weapons against his own people and the opposition forces as that civil war in Syria broke out. And that's really what turned the world fully against him and led to this sort of massive wave of sanctions against Assad. So we're talking decades and decades of just brutal sanctions that have really crippled the Syrian economy.
Yes, indeed. And it wasn't just Bashar al-Assad, also his father before him, with his kind of stronghold on Syria. And now that, Bashar al-Assad has been removed, is that the timing? Is it timing now? Is that why President Donald Trump decided to lift the sanctions?
It certainly created the space for that. And over the last couple of months, what you've seen is, European countries and others around the world have lifted those sanctions, but the United States was slower to do so. And I think much of why Donald Trump did this over the last week was really the growing relationship he has with the leader of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, right? So it appears that there's a relationship that has been developing there, which suggests that U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East may be recalibrating away from Israel towards Saudi Arabia. But this really feels that Saudi Arabia told Donald Trump that, hey, this is something we want and we would like to have deals with you. And Trump said, I'm all in. Absolutely. So I think it's very, very transactional and very Trumpian in that way.
And I know it's not on our slate of questions, but you mentioned something that was very interesting right now, that the U.S. may be recalibrating, kind of it's maybe having a shift in policy away from Israel a bit at least. Do you think that Trump is growing weary of what's going on with Israel and Hamas and maybe Israel's stance on what's going on? Or is there a different reason why he may be shifting gears a little bit?
It could be any of those things, right? I think certainly Donald Trump has gotten frustrated with Gaza. I think he wants that to move more quickly, even though it is a really, really difficult issue. But I think maybe at its core, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, those countries did a really good job of pulling Donald Trump in. I mean, he is somebody who's very, very transactional, and I think they made lots of good opportunities and offers for both the United States, but also for Trump personally and his family and his companies. And Donald Trump is responsive to those. I think what we're seeing is that a lot of countries around the world are realizing how to appeal to Trump. And you're absolutely right. I think we're seeing a recalibration, a shifting, where the United States is going to likely pull a little bit away from Israel and maybe look for a more intense relationship with Saudi Arabia, which again, that is a really, really big deal.
Indeed. So I do want to know, though, and I'm sure our listeners are wondering, how will the lifting of U.S. sanctions affect ordinary Syrians?
It'll be transformative, right? So for decades, average Syrians haven't been able to access international markets. When you look at the situation, I think the numbers are like 90% of Syrians are living in poverty.
Right.
25% of them are out of work. I mean, so it's a devastating situation. And some of that is largely because they can't access markets. They can't access goods, loans, banks, whatever. So by removing or beginning to remove these sanctions, right, it'll be a slower process because the U.S. Congress has to get involved as well. But it'll create those opportunities again. And Syria for many, many years was really a thriving economy. So I think there are many who are optimistic that this could just sort of give some jet fuel to the Syrian economy, which has just been suffering for so many years. So there's a lot of hope. That being said, it's a really, really complicated situation it's playing out in Syria. But again, we're hopeful.
And so speaking of those countries in the Middle East, I would assume that at least some, if not most of the countries might welcome this. Of course, not all.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So what we've seen over the last few years is Syria has really been a proxy war, both in the Middle East. So as Iran and Saudi Arabia have battled for the control of the Middle East, they've had that battle play through Syria. But at a broader scale, you've seen the United States and Russia and China also vie for power and global positioning through Syria. So all of these states have a big influence and interest. I think Israel is the one who might lose the most. I think they're most concerned about this. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states are most excited about this. Another really important and interesting actor is Russia. For years and years, Russia had a very close relationship with the Assad family.
Right.
It's not entirely clear what that will look like. The new president has suggested he wants to continue to buy weapons from Russia. But all of these countries are trying to figure out what the nature of that relationship is. And I think part of the motivation for the Trump administration is to say, hey, this may be the opportunity for us to put our foot down there and actually have some influence in the region.
So do you think that these sanctions will actually help to rebuild Syria? Because there has been years of war, of disruption going on within the country.
Well, you hope they begin the process, right? At least they will remove some of the constraints. But we can also think back to Iraq in 2003 after the U.S. invasion. There was a similar sense of hope that you get rid of Saddam Hussein and the Iraqi economy will flourish. And what we saw afterwards, that it was really, really difficult to do so. So we shouldn't be naive to think that this will be an easy process. But we can hope, right? I think we can hope that if you can get out of the way and prevent some of these sanctions from lingering, that maybe you can create some economic opportunity. But the challenge is grave and it's dramatic and it's going to be a really uphill one.
Indeed. And so now if we can turn our attention to the new Syrian government under Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, what do we know of him, his new government, his leadership style?
What a fascinating figure and shift. I mean, it was, 5-6 months ago, the United States had him on his most wanted and was willing to give $10 million to information to bring him in. So, he has ties or had previous ties to Al-Qaeda. I will say he's doing everything right now. He is being very diplomatic. He's reaching out. He's saying the right things. He's talking about unifying Syria. And that's what you want to hear. So I think he's doing everything right. But again, it's a really dramatic transformation. We will see. This is, this does happen. Sometimes you have individuals who come from a troubled past or a complicated past who can then be a unifier. I'm really interested to see how that all plays out because the challenge is significant. Because Syria, there's a tremendous amount of diversity within Syria, different religious groups, ethnic groups. He's got to manage all of those. And so the early stage, I think everybody is excited about peace and stability. But over the long haul, when all of these different groups, whether we're talking about the Kurds or Turks, all of these, how does he balance all of those pressures? The job is only going to get more difficult as time goes by.
Yes, indeed. And in terms of how the U.S. deals with other countries that are under sanctions right now or have been under sanctions, do you think that this is kind of just a one-off, an outlier? I'm talking about Syria or is this kind of a change in the tenor of how the Trump administration is dealing with certain countries?
It's hard to know, but I think it's a potential preview of more diplomatic activity. And I think what we should be thinking about here is Iran as the next case. So what we saw is that Trump was willing to engage diplomatically and to try to solve this problem without using military force, which is a good thing. And so then the question is, would he be open to using a similar approach with Iran? And there have been conversations with Iran. Now, Saudi Arabia will be playing a different role in that process. And so maybe more of this with Syria was actually a reflection of the interest of the Saudis, and the Saudis may not have the same interest in having a long-term peace deal with Iran. But I think it does suggest that Trump is at least open to diplomatic solutions. But all of that being said, he is such an enigma. It's hard to know what at any moment is motivating him because 30 seconds from now, he might change.
So true. But is there anything else you want to leave us with before I let you go, Professor, in terms of what's happening with Syria? Is this like a real new chapter, do you think?
It's an exciting chapter, right? Especially as we think about how significant Syria is for understanding Middle Eastern politics. It has been this proxy where, regional and global forces have been playing out. I think it has some relevance to what's going on in Iran. So I think we want to begin, I've used this term over and over again, hopeful that maybe it can lay the seeds for more diplomatic activity with Iran and others, and maybe a more stable Middle East, which is something we haven't seen over the last 4 to 5 years.
So true. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us on air once again. Thank you, Professor.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This was Professor William Muck. We talked about the latest in the U.S. decision to lift its sanctions against Syria. So Syria embarking on a new chapter. So this was our special interview, and I'll be back with Claire in just a moment with News in Depth.
5월 24일 토요일 오후 1시 영화의 전당 야외 무대에서 만나는 작은 지구촌 축제. 영어와 음악이 함께합니다.
BFM All-Star English 공개 방송. Hello world, let's be friends.
저 에이시아 푸기.
And me, 민수.
그리고 개그맨 이상훈.
감사합니다.
가수 와니와 아론. 래퍼 윤비까지 이 라인업 실화.
From a fun English quiz to a freestyle rap battle, get ready for a time full of laughter, music, and making new friends with All-Star English.
May 24th, Saturday 1 p.m. 영화의 전당에서 우리 그날 친구 할까요?
It is time for News in Depth. We have our BFM newscaster, Claire, here in the studio with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So I know we have a lot to cover. Stuff from the constitutional reform ideas here in Korea. We're going to move on to early childhood education pressures. And even a tragic maritime accident in New York. So let's get right into it. So the first story.
Yes, let's start with one of the biggest developments in this election season, constitutional reform.
Yes.
Yesterday, both I재명 of the Democratic Party and 김문수 of the People Power Party released their own reform proposals. And while both are calling for changes to Korea's presidential term system, their visions for the future of Korean governance go in a very different direction.
Right. So basically, both of them seem to want to change the current 5-year presidential term, correct?
Yes, that's the one point they agree on. Right now, presidents serve a single 5-year term with no re-election.
Yes.
I재명 is proposing a 4-year term with one immediate re-election, meaning a maximum of 8 years if re-elected.
Yes.
김문수 is suggesting something similar in length, but with a twist. He wants to cut the next president's term to 3 years, then move to a non-consecutive re-election system, also known as 중임제.
Oh, interesting. So let's get into the logistics, the difference between 연임제 and 중임제.
So good question. Under 연임제, the president can run again, but only once and right after their first term.
Okay.
If they lose that re-election, they're done. 중임제, on the other hand, allows someone to return to the presidency even after a break. Think of former U.S. President Trump running again after losing to Biden. That's 중임제.
So that's a good example. So we have a better idea. Okay. And I guess there's some tension around those terms, right?
It did. 김문수 questioned whether Yi's use of the term 연임제 might leave room for extended control, like Russia's Putin scenario. Lee's camp dismissed that, saying the proposal is clearly for one consecutive re-election only, and that current laws prevent any sitting president, including himself, from benefiting from constitutional changes during their term.
I see. Well, besides the length of term, what else are they focusing on?
So Lee's plan is really centered on reducing presidential power and boosting parliamentary oversight. He wants the National Assembly to recommend the Prime Minister, and he's calling for parliamentary approval when appointing top agency heads.
Yes.
There's also a proposal to limit the president's veto powers, especially in cases related to themselves or close family.
Okay. So what about Kim-Munsu and his side?
So Kim's focus is a bit broader, what you might call a full system reset.
Okay.
He's pushing for judicial reform, like ending presidential immunity from prosecution, and he wants to strip lawmakers of their legal privileges, including arrest and speech immunity. He's also proposing tools like citizen recall votes to make public officials more directly accountable.
So it does seem they're both talking about reform, but coming at it from different places.
Exactly. You could say Lee wants to shift more power toward parliament, strengthening internal checks and balances.
Okay.
Kim, on the other hand, is aiming to empower the public directly by limiting special protections and expanding citizen oversight.
And they have different ideas about when all of this should happen also, right?
Yes, Lee's looking at a gradual process, suggesting a referendum as early as 2026 or 2028. But Kim is calling for immediate change, including shortening the next presidential term to just 3 years to realign the election calendar. So even on timing, they're moving in very different directions.
Yes. Well, is there any chance that either of these plans could move forward?
It won't be easy. Any constitutional change needs a 2/3 National Assembly vote and a national referendum. So while this debate is gaining attention, the gap between the two sides makes progress unlikely, at least in the short term.
So it does sound like we're seeing like the beginning of, I guess, like a bigger, larger conversation.
Definitely. Whether or not reforms happen soon, both sides have put governance structure back on the national agenda, and that alone is a major development.
I see. So we're going to move on to another kind of pressure. This time, as I prefaced this segment, on very young children. So, Claire, what's going on with these English kindergarten entrance tests?
Very, very young. Yeah, this one has sparked a lot of discussion among parents and educators.
Yes.
The so-called 사세고시, or 4-year-old exam, refers to the level test that some private English kindergarten require before admitting a child.
Yes.
These aren't basic interviews. They're full-on assessments where children are expected to read phonics accurately, give self-introductions, and even describe images in English.
I laugh because the thought of that, even my own kids who are technically, American, at just 4 years of age, it kind of like makes me laugh. It does. Yes.
Just 4 years old.
Yes.
That's why it's drawing concern. These tests are often seen as a barrier to entry, especially for kindergartens that follow an English immersion model. Some of these schools even teach elementary level American curricula.
Yes.
So kids are expected to perform far above their developmental age by the time they're 6 or 7.
And I'm going to assume that these programs are quite expensive.
Yes, indeed. According to recent data, the average monthly tuition is about 1.5 million won, 154만 5천 원.
For 1 month, right?
For 1 month.
Okay.
For about $1,100 US. That doesn't include additional costs like materials or extracurriculars, and parents still have to worry about whether their child will pass the level test just to be admitted.
Right, and usually all the busing, that's extra.
Yeah.
Textbooks, they charge extra. Everything's extra.
Everything
is extra. So what's the government doing about it? Is it doing anything?
The Education Ministry recently sent an official request to all 17 metropolitan and provincial education offices, asking them to report on whether these level tests are being conducted in their jurisdictions.
Yes.
It's the first step toward what the government says will be a nationwide investigation into the practice.
Question though, are there rules in place right now?
That's the problem. Under current laws, there's no direct legal basis to ban or penalize level tests. If a school charges a fee for the test, they can be penalized with administrative points, but the test itself is not illegal. That's why advocacy groups and parents are calling for legislative change.
Okay. So what are those groups saying?
Groups like Mothers in Politics say that these tests are essentially a form of developmentally inappropriate cramming and in extreme cases, even educational abuse. They want the government to treat these issues not just as a market regulation problem, but as one involving children's rights and well-being.
Right, because don't we want our children to be happy and do well, not just do well academically, right? So this is really about, things like equity and childhood development. I don't know.
Yes, critics argue that these kinds of early academic pressures are deepening education inequality while putting unnecessary stress on children and families. As of now, the ministry is aiming to complete its investigation by the end of July, but broader policy solutions are still pending.
Yes, and we have so many comments. I'm going to just read a few. Tommy says, those tests come from mom's greed. 엄마의 욕심.
It's true.
So that's what he says. Ledini says, really insane. 4세고시, 7세고시, it could be considered child abuse.
Kind of, yes.
And Leslie, who is American, says, they have to do more than American children do at that age. And she says, crazy. The babies need a chance to play and build relationships with other children. And the thing is, I think in theory, most people will agree with this. And then I also wonder, though, if you're given the opportunity and the resources to send your kids, I don't know, it's like, I think some parents
and not the
would be
peer pressure?
tempted.
Peer pressure?
Yeah.
Like all the other kids?
Like, are my kids and their peers, are they doing this too? It's like I don't know. But I definitely agree. Kids need time to thrive and to play.
Yeah,
That's
play.
a part of childhood. We're going to move on to our final story. This is a serious maritime accident in New York City that is drawing international attention. What happened?
Yes, on Saturday evening, a Mexican Navy training ship, the Cuauhtemoc, struck the bottom of the Brooklyn Bridge while passing underneath. According to New York City Mayor Eric Adams, the ship has lost power and collided while en route to Iceland as part of a goodwill tour.
Oh, and the thing is, I hear that there were casualties, right?
Yes. Sadly, yes, 2 crew members, a cadet and a sailor, died after falling from the ship's mast during the crash. Around 20 others were injured and several remain hospitalized. The vessel was carrying 277 people at the time.
Well, do we know what may have caused the crash?
The cause is still under investigation, but early reports suggest the rudder may have failed, leaving the captain unable to steer. The National Transportation Safety Board and Mexican Navy officials are now conducting a joint investigation.
Yes.
The ship's voyage data recorder is expected to be a key to understanding what happened.
I see. So what's the current situation at the site right now?
So the ship is now docked at Pier 36 and a 50-yard safety zone has been established around it.
I see.
The Coast Guard and NYPD are maintaining patrols and other vessels in the area have been told to proceed with caution.
What about the crew?
So most of the crew will be flown back to Mexico Sunday night local time. They'll be escorted by public buses to JFK Airport. A few crew members will remain with the ship while arrangements are made for repairs and relocation.
I see. And the bridge itself, has the bridge been damaged?
There was some damage to the underside of the Brooklyn Bridge, but engineers have confirmed it's not structural, and the bridge has been reopened to traffic.
Okay. I mean, that is tragic for, what should have been a very peaceful voyage, right?
It was meant to be, absolutely. The Mexican Navy Secretary and President Claudia Sheinbaum have both expressed condolences and pledged full support to the victim's family and the investigation.
Indeed. So, well, we're going to call it a wrap for News in Depth for today. So thank you so much for coming in, going over all these stories in detail, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Claire.
Sure. Have a great day.
All right, everybody. This was News in Depth, and we're going to take a song break. This is Andante by ABBA.
Just let the feeling grow. Make you summer night. Touch my soul, you know how. Andante, andante, go slowly with the night. I'm your music, and I am your song. I'm your song. Play me time and time again, and make me strong. Make me sing, make me sound, make me sing, make me andante, andante, tread lightly on my ground. Andante, andante, oh please don't let me down. There's a shimmer in your eyes, like the feeling of 1,000 butterflies. Please don't talk, go on, play. Andante, andante, and let me float away. I'm your music, and I am your song. I'm your song. Play me time and time again, and make me strong. Make me sing, make me sound, make me sing, make me andante, andante, tread lightly on my ground. Andante, andante, oh please don't let me down.
All right, Wavers, before we close things out, I'm going to read a couple messages, and I'm also going to tell you about a special day that is actually today. Leslie says this: there's a common scam going on right now in the U.S. where people are getting text messages telling them that they have an outstanding balance for road tolls, and they provide a link to pay the fine. So apparently she received a text for an outstanding balance in Maine. And the thing is, she's never been to Maine. And that state, Maine, is on the East Coast, and she's in Colorado. So of course, technically she could have gone there, but she said she's never even been there. So I guess she knew right away that, oh, this must be a scam. But can you imagine? Like, what if you had been to Maine? You'd be like, oh, did I? did I get a ticket and not know it? And then Michael says this, 저는 저장 안 된 번호에서 전화가 오면 he uses AI 먼저 어딘지 물어보고 모르겠다 하면 일단 저장해서 톡에 the profile 있는지 확인해서 상대방 확인 후 정상인이면 답변하던가 전화를 받던가 한대요. So he always checks because you want to be extra careful out there. You just never know these days. Yeah, my rule of thumb is I just don't take calls from a number that I don't know. If it's not saved on my phone, I figure if it's that important, they'll call again, they'll text again, they'll get in touch with me somehow. And by the way, today is Coming of Age Day here in South Korea. 성년의 날. Ooh, so we've talked about some childhood-related issues that haven't been so great, not so positive, but, maybe this gives us impetus, meaning a reason, a chance to think about how we are raising our children collectively as a village, right? Even those of us who don't have children ourselves, and what kind of grown-ups they are expected to become. By the way, congratulations to all the young adults who are coming of age today. All right, we're going to call it a wrap for today. Our show is produced by Cho Ye-ji. We have our writers, Haley Sa, Sue Kim. I'm your host, Catherine. I'll be back to do it all over again tomorrow. Chowdings, a magic carpet ride for our final song. Enjoy. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.